We have to start today with some really somber news.
Yeah, it's really tragic news coming out of Australia.
Virginia Giuffre has died by suicide at her farm there.
Hmm.
And look, this isn't just another headline for us. We really want to take a deep dive into what this event means.
Absolutely. It feels incredibly significant, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially within the context of the whole Prince Andrew scandal.
Exactly. We're going to try and unpack the implications for him, obviously, but also the wider picture.
And Virginia Shouff herself, I mean, she has to be remembered as this incredibly determined survivor.
Definitely. A survivor of sex trafficking, of abuse.
And she was so central, wasn't she, to the downfall of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
And her actions undeniably completely reshaped how the public saw the Duke of York.
Yeah. Her family's statement, calling her a fierce warrior,
Yeah, I saw.
whose incredible courage will always be remembered. It really lands, I think.
It does. And the core of it all, for this part of the story, were her accusations against Prince Andrew.
Right. The specific claim that he sexually assaulted or raped her when she was 17.
It's just 17, after she was allegedly trafficked to London.
And it's so important, as you said, to stress, these claims were never actually tested in a court of law.
Crucial point. And Prince Andrew has always consistently denied any wrongdoing. He's never been arrested.
Never arrested, no. That's the legal reality.
Yeah.
But the accusations themselves, they set so much in motion.
They really did. I mean, the most visible consequence was in 2019 when he stepped back from public life.
And he's never returned. Not really.
No. Okay, so let's talk about the legal side then. That out-of-court settlement in 2022.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Between Miss Giuffre and Prince Andrew.
We know it was reportedly worth millions of pounds, a substantial amount.
It seemed to be yes. But the key thing, legally speaking.
No admission of liability from him.
Exactly. No admission. So it brought a kind of legal closure, perhaps.
Maybe, but it felt like it left a lot of people frustrated,
Understandably. Settlements often do that. They provide a resolution, maybe compensation, but not necessarily the acknowledgement or answers victims or the public might seek.
Right. Lisa Bloom, who represents other Epstein victims, she pointed that out.
She did. She talked about the frustration, but also framed it as a kind of victory.
How so?
Well, in her words, it forced Prince Andrew to stop his nonsense and side with sexual abuse victims, even without admitting anything himself. It was a strategic win, perhaps.
Interesting take. And then, of course, there was that interview, BBC Newsnight.
Oh, the Newsnight interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now infamous, isn't it?
Definitely a turning point in public perception. His claim, what was it? No recollection of ever meeting this lady, none whatsoever.
That line just, it exploded, didn't it?
It really did. And then the alibis, the excuses.
The Pizza Express in Woking.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing about not being able to sweat.
It was met with, well, the source material calls it nationwide ridicule. That feels about right.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And beyond the specifics people doubted, there was criticism about his apparent lack of regret,
Right. Regret for associating with Epstein, or even just empathy for abuse survivors generally.
It seemed like a profound misreading of the public mood, perhaps. Or maybe just a failure to grasp the gravity.
Yeah. And the Epstein connection itself, I mean, that's absolutely central here. This wasn't just a passing acquaintance.
No, not at all. We know Prince Andrew was associating with Jeffrey Epstein as far back as, well, at least 2010.
That photograph in Central Park.
Exactly. And crucially, this was after Epstein had already served time for prostituting minors.
Which raised huge questions about judgment, didn't it? Right from the start.
It certainly did for many people. And while that photo brought things into sharp focus publicly, the specific accusations against Andrew related to Giuffre, they actually surfaced in court documents back in 2015.
Ah, okay. So it was bubbling under the surface legally for years before it fully broke.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And that kicked off years of legal back and forth, increasing pressure for him to be interviewed.
By the police, and in open court eventually, which never happened.
No. Which brings us to the royal family's response to all this.
Right. The settlement, for instance. Reports suggest that it was encouraged by the late Queen Elizabeth II and her advisors.
That seems very likely. You can imagine the thinking, right?
Huh.
To avoid the sheer spectacle of a senior royal giving evidence under oath.
The potential damage to the institution.
Exactly. Protecting the monarchy would have been paramount.
So after the settlement and after Newsnight, Andrew essentially retreated.
Pretty much retired to Royal Lodge, yeah. His appearances became really limited.
We saw him writing, visiting his mother before she passed, some family time, very private.
Very private. And there were those whispers, weren't there? hopes from his allies, maybe.
The Profumo-style comeback idea?
Yeah, that kind of quiet rehabilitation through charity work, building back slowly.
But that just hasn't materialized at all, has it?
Not even close. In fact, things got more complicated for him.
You mean the recent stories, linking him to an alleged Chinese spy?
That's another layer, yes. So his public role now is even more restricted. Basically just family occasions.
Like Christmas at Sandringham, Easter at Windsor.
Right. And even then, like at Easter this year, reports said he was very keen to avoid the cameras, avoid the public.
It sounds like the support structure within the family has weakened too.
Significantly, it seems. The article mentions King Charles has reportedly lost patience.
Especially over Royal Lodge, him refusing to leave.
That seems to be a major sticking point. And the consequence, the king apparently cut off his funding.
Wow, that formerly extensive funding. That sends a clear message.
It really does. And maybe even more significant for the long term.
What's that?
The position of Prince William, the Prince of Wales, the future king.
Ah,
Reports say he will not countenance a return to duty for his uncle in his reign.
so that door seems firmly shut. No way back into official life.
It certainly looks that way. It underlines how damaging this whole period has been.
The source calls it the most unedifying and damaging royal scandal in living memory. That's a strong statement.
It is, but it reflects the scale of it, doesn't it? It goes way beyond just Andrew himself.
And bringing it back to Virginia Giuffre, her family's words about the toll of abuse being so heavy it became unbearable. It's just heartbreaking.
It really underscores the immense human cost, the lasting trauma involved in these situations.
Yeah. And for Prince Andrew, now 65, the article notes he hasn't commented on her death.
And suggests he's unlikely to.
Right. Which leads to the author's conclusion that her death draws the most tragic of lines under a period of his life he hoped would end in redemption and now will not.
A very stark, very final judgment, it feels like.
So wrapping this up, Virginia Giuffre's tragic death really feels like it closes a chapter. A very significant, very sad chapter in this whole saga.
I think that's right. Any lingering hopes, however faint, that Prince Andrew might have had for some kind of public rehabilitation.
They seem gone now.
Completely extinguished, I'd say.
Even though legally the accusations weren't proven in court, and he maintains his denial, the combination of Mr. Giuffre's persistence, the Newsnight fallout, everything else, it's had lasting consequences.
Huge consequences.
Yeah.
For his reputation, his role, his future within the family. It's undeniable.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about scandals like this, the impact on trust.
Trust in individuals, trust in institutions.
Yeah, and that gap between a legal outcome, like a settlement, and what the public feels is justice or accountability.
The court of public opinion is powerful.
It really is. So maybe the question to leave you, the listener, with is this. How does Virginia Giuffre's tragic death ultimately change how we think about accountability, not just legally, but morally? And what does it tell us about the long, dark shadow that abuse can cast?